My daughters replaced me on paper for a curated new family, and now they're circling back while their mom plays mom again. Hi, I'm Mark, 45, and I raised 2 daughters alone after their mom ditched us to go find herself in Colorado. I wiped tears, packed lunches, fixed hair with trembling hands in YouTube tutorials, and somehow kept our lives afloat while she sent postcards from Mount Damn Everest or wherever. And now she wants them back. Wants to play mom again, actually. Or rather, her shiny new husband does. Guy's a family lawyer, wears sweater vests, unironically, and probably owns a monogrammed wine opener. You know the type. But here's the real kicker. They said yes. Both of them. Hannah, 21, and Lily, 19, my girls, stood in my kitchen one snowy February evening and told me they were letting Cameron, the man their mom married after ghosting for 14 years, adopt them. Not adopt them back like Melissa is getting a receipt and returning 2 grown kids to the store. This is adult adoption, the legal kind, where a stepdad can file papers and a judge can sign off even when the kids are old enough to vote. Said he fits better with their lives now. That I'd always be their dad, of course, but that this just made sense. And what did I do? I let them go. Didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't fight. Just stood there, heart cratering like a building demo, and told them they were adults. They could make their own choices. 3 months later, they want to come back to my house, back to the man who went to every dance recital, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference, back to the man who canceled dates and vacations and work meetings because someone had a fever or a broken heart. But here's the thing. I've already moved on. Let me rewind. Let me tell you how we got here, because this story doesn't start with betrayal. It starts with a mint-scented dentist's office and a girl with camera dreams. Melissa was the kind of woman who walked into a room like she owned the lighting. She had this energy, messy, magnetic, infuriating. We met at a dentist's office of all places. I was 25, she was 23, and she handed me a new appointment card with a smile that somehow made me forget I'd just had 3 cavities filled. That was Melissa. Could make misery feel charming. 8 months later, we were pregnant. Not planned, but we were grown-ups. Got married at the courthouse. No flowers, no vows, just a signature and the kind of shaky hope you cling to when your life changes in a day. Hannah came first, then Lily 2 years later. And for a while, it was good. Messy, but good. I worked logistics, still do. Long hours, but decent pay. Melissa stayed home with the kids at first, said she wanted to raise them herself. That lasted until the itch came back, the one she always had. Photography. I need to find myself, she said one night while Lily was teething and Hannah had a fever. I was covered in baby vomit and panic, and she was reading a blog about an art retreat in Santa Fe. I supported it, worked longer hours so she could buy camera gear, took over mornings, school pickups, meals, bedtime. Told myself this was marriage. Sometimes one of you carries more. In 2010, she told me she was leaving, just like that. Said she'd met a guy in her photo group. Said she was moving to Colorado to pursue her dreams. Said I was stable and the girls would be better off with me. She didn't want custody, just freedom. I was 30 with 2 daughters under 8 and a mortgage. I barely knew how to boil pasta, but we figured it out. I learned how to braid hair, got good at bargain shopping and multitasking. We built routines, pancakes on Saturdays, movie nights on Fridays, chaos in between. It was hard, it was real, and it was ours. Melissa faded into a ghost, birthday cards that stopped coming, promises to visit that never materialized. The girls stopped asking after a while. I became the default parent, then the only parent. I showed up, every day, through everything.
So when Melissa popped back into our lives like she'd just stepped out from milk, smiling and tan and dripping forgiveness, I didn't rage. I let the girls choose. And they did. They chose her and him, and I let them go. The adoption wasn't instant, but it might as well have been. The second they started calling him Cam instead of Mr. Phillips, I knew where it was heading. They told me at the kitchen table. Same table where I once helped them build solar system models and fill out college applications. Hannah, always the calm one, took the lead. "It's just a formality," she said, like erasing me from legal paperwork was no bigger deal than switching a cell phone plan. Lily added, "It doesn't mean we love you any less." Except it did. Not because love disappears overnight, but because it shifts, gets redirected. Cameron didn't just fit better, he had space for them in his life. Emotional space, financial space, and a family with matching polos for brunch. And yeah, before anyone asks, there were reasons, the kind that sound practical when you say them fast. Cameron's a lawyer, so he treated it like a file that needed to be closed properly. Last names matching, next of kin paperwork cleaned up, medical authorization, insurance, inheritance, all the tidy boxes that make a new family look official on paper. Melissa loved the symbolism of it. Cameron loved the legal neatness. My daughters loved the idea of it feeling complete. I gave them my blessing, if you can call it that. I told them I supported whatever they needed to do. Then I went for a 3-hour drive and screamed into the steering wheel like I hadn't in years. They signed the papers in March. I stopped being dad on paper. On paper, I was nothing. But I kept showing up anyway. Helped with resumes, loaned Lily my old laptop when hers crashed, listened to Hannah cry over her first real job with a nightmare boss, drove out to Harrisburg when Lily's car wouldn't start, 2.5 hours each way, in the rain. Never once did I bring up the adoption. Never asked, was he there for this? Never reminded them who made midnight ER trips or sat through 5-hour volleyball tournaments. I just did what I'd always done. Showed up. Then one day I realized I was filling in the gaps again. The emotional handyman, the backup plan. And I was tired. So I stopped waiting by the phone, stopped texting first, stopped building my life around the assumption that I might be needed. And life didn't fall apart. In fact, it got quieter, simpler. I met Patricia. No drama, no emotional booby traps, just a kind, funny woman who liked me because I could make her laugh and fix her dripping sink without calling a guy. She wasn't looking to be anyone's mom, and I wasn't looking to rebuild a broken family. We just fit. By summer, we were spending weekends together. I taught her how to use a lathe. She taught me how to cook tofu without making it taste like drywall. It wasn't flashy, it was steady. And then, like clockwork, the girls wanted back in. Hannah first. Showed up out of nowhere, looking lost. Sat in my kitchen and said, "It's all just too much." Told me Melissa was trying to force a bond that didn't exist, that Cameron's picture-perfect life came with strings, expectations, pressure, that she missed this, the quiet, the normal, me. I poured her coffee, same brand I'd always bought, and she said, "That's what's weird. Everything's the same here." She meant it as comfort. But all I heard was, "You stayed the same while we chased something better. Now we're tired and want to come home." Lily came next. Same story, different flavor. She called on a Tuesday, her voice small like it used to be when she was 7 and afraid of thunderstorms. "Dad, can I come stay for the weekend?" No explanation, no excuses. I said yes, of course. I always say yes. She showed up with a duffel bag and her eyes rimmed red. We watched a dumb comedy movie, made microwave popcorn, and didn't talk about Harrisburg until she was halfway through her second soda. "Mom keeps trying to turn me into some version of her," she said, curled up on the couch under the same old blanket we've had since she was a kid. "She wants to go to galleries, talk about lighting, enroll me in photography classes, but I don't care about photography. I never have." She looked at me then, like she was waiting for me to say I told you so. I didn't, just handed her more popcorn and nodded. It was the same thing Hannah had said weeks earlier. Melissa was performing motherhood like it was theater, trying to manufacture memories instead of accepting the ones she never showed up for. Cameron's not bad, but it feels like everything's curated, like I'm living in someone else's Pinterest board. That made me laugh, out loud. She smiled for the first time all night. They started visiting more often, coming back for dinner, for help with taxes, for nights when Harrisburg felt too tight, too staged. But I noticed it, how they'd walk into the house like it was a time capsule. Everything familiar, everything safe. They'd say home and mean here, but they lived there, with the people they chose. And I didn't say a word because I didn't know what I was allowed to say anymore. Then came Christmas. They asked if they could come home for it this year. Not just visit, stay. Of course I said yes, cleaned their rooms, changed the sheets, bought their favorite snacks. Didn't tell them Patricia would be joining us for dinner. She showed up in her usual effortless way, homemade pie in hand, easy smile, red sweater and jeans like this was just another Tuesday. I introduced her, called them my daughters. The word felt heavier than it used to, like I was borrowing something that didn't belong to me anymore. Dinner was strange, polite, everyone too aware of how many ghosts were in the room. Patricia did most of the talking, bless her, asked them about work, school, life in Harrisburg. Lily gave short answers. Hannah watched Patricia and me like we were a foreign movie without subtitles. After Patricia left, Hannah cornered me in the kitchen. "You didn't say she was your girlfriend." I said I was seeing someone. Seeing someone is different than spending Christmas with them. I turned to her, the sink still running. "You moved in with your mom and Cameron. You let him adopt you. I didn't throw a fit. But now you're upset because I brought a date to Christmas dinner? That's not what How is it different?" She didn't have an answer, just stood there, looking hurt and lost. Later that night, we had the talk. The one I never thought I'd get, the apology I'd stopped hoping for. Hannah started. "We messed up. We thought choosing Mom and Cameron was the fair thing to do, giving her a chance, but we didn't realize what we were walking away from." Lily added, "You were our whole life, and we treated you like a backup plan." Then came the ask, the one I'd rehearsed in my head 1,000 times. "Can we come back?" Not for a visit, for good. They wanted to move back, live here, be a family again. And part of me, God, a huge part of me, wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe we could rewind the tape, that everything could go back to how it was when they were 13 and 10 and still thought I hung the moon. I wanted to forget how it felt watching them walk out the door last spring. Wanted to ignore the signed papers that said they belonged to someone else now. But I couldn't, because I'd built something too, a life, with space for me in it, not just them. "I love you," I told them. "You'll always have a place here, always. But I can't just pretend the last 6 months didn't happen. You made adult choices. You built a life somewhere else, and I've been building one too." Lily wiped tears off her cheek. "So that's it? We screwed up and now we're stuck with it?"
"No," I said, "you're not stuck. But if you want to be here, really be here, it has to be as people who understand what that means, not just daughters looking for a reset button. I'm not a backup dad. I'm not your safety net." They nodded, slowly, said they understood, but the pain in their faces said otherwise. Christmas morning was quieter than usual. We opened gifts like everything was fine, and they gave me a watch and a journal, things that said, "We remember." I gave them practical stuff, nothing mushy. We were all trying, but none of us quite knew how. Patricia came by for lunch. The girls were polite, civil, distant, watching us like strangers learning a new language. The next day, they packed their bags, said goodbye, hugged me like they didn't want to let go. "We love you, Dad," Hannah said. "I love you too, always will, but you've got to figure out your life, and I've got to keep living mine." January rolled in like an empty room, quiet, cold, and echoing with things no one said out loud. The girls went back to Harrisburg, back to curated living rooms and gallery visits and stepdad brunches where everyone used cloth napkins and remembered to ask about each other's 5-year plans. Me, I went back to my quiet house, back to my woodworking projects and early morning gym sessions, back to Patricia, who didn't ask for more than I could give and never tried to fill spaces she didn't create. Hannah called more often, not just to vent or apologize, but to actually talk. Asked how I was doing, told me about work stress, a project deadline, a roommate who stole her almond milk. It felt real, grounded, no longer filtered through guilt or some unspoken need for approval. She mentioned looking for apartments closer to home, not with me, just near. That mattered. Lily was slower to reach out, but when she did, it was raw, honest. She admitted she didn't know what she wanted anymore. Said Melissa still tried to bond through photography and intentional mother-daughter moments, but it all felt like acting. And Lily, she was tired of pretending to enjoy the performance. She wants us to feel like a real family, Lily said during one of her video calls. But real families aren't made by matching outfits and themed dinners. They're made by someone sitting on the floor with you at 1 a.m. when you're falling apart. You did that. She never did. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. Sometimes that's all kids need, someone to witness the storm, not fix it. Melissa texted in February, wanted my advice on how to make the girls feel more connected during the holidays next year. Said she was thinking of creating new rituals that blended our old traditions with her new life. I stared at my phone for a solid 10 minutes before replying, "They're adults. Let them decide what they want." Nothing else. No smiley face, no signature. Cameron messaged me too, said he owed me an apology, that he hadn't realized what he was stepping into, that he thought he was helping, not replacing. I didn't respond, because I didn't need validation, and I sure as hell didn't need closure from the man who became their dad on paper just because he could afford a nicer dinner. Some apologies are just guilt with good grammar. Meanwhile, Patricia and I started talking about taking a trip, somewhere warm, somewhere with no expectations, no timelines, just two people with nothing to prove, picking a beach and watching the sunset on all the years we'd spent proving ourselves to everyone else. And for the first time in over 2 decades, I wasn't planning my life around anyone else's decisions. Spring crept in without ceremony. No big gestures, just longer days, softer winds, and this strange feeling in my chest like I could finally exhale. The girls were still in Harrisburg, technically, but they'd stopped pretending it was home. Calls came regularly now. Not crisis calls, just life.
Lily venting about her coworker who chewed gum like a freight train. Hannah texting photos of sunsets from her walk home, saying, "Thought you'd like this." I did. In March, Hannah asked if she could meet Patricia for coffee, just the two of them, no me. I said sure. Tried not to overthink it. Failed miserably. They met at a quiet little cafe downtown. Hannah picked it. She said she wanted neutral ground, her words. They talked for 2 hours. I don't know all of what was said, and I didn't ask, but that evening, Hannah called me just to say, "She's cool. I get it now. Why you like her." That meant more than I expected. Lily followed suit a few weeks later, came by the house on a Sunday afternoon while Patricia was over helping me rearrange the garage. They ended up on the porch together, coffee in hand, talking like they'd always known each other. I watched from the kitchen window like some nosy neighbor in a sitcom. Later, Lily told me, she doesn't try too hard. That's rare. Yeah, it is. Melissa kept her distance. Maybe she sensed the shift, maybe she didn't care. Her texts became less frequent. Fewer invites, fewer guilt-laced group photos posted online. Cameron, to his credit, never messaged again. I think he realized whatever picture-perfect family they tried to build, it wasn't going to overwrite 20 years of history. The girls didn't ask to move back in, and I didn't offer. Instead, they started orbiting closer. Hannah found a job in our county, said it was a better fit, more creative freedom. She rented an apartment 15 minutes from my place, came over for dinner once a week, brought laundry sometimes. Old habits die hard. Lily took fewer shifts at the bookstore and more online classes, started crashing on my couch after long study nights. Didn't call it moving back, but the toothbrush in the bathroom said otherwise. I didn't push, didn't label anything. I just made dinner when they were around, replaced the old flickering porch light, stocked the fridge with Lily's weird oat milk and Hannah's favorite yogurt. Quiet gestures, the kind that say, "I'm here, I never left." Patricia noticed. She didn't say much, just squeezed my hand one night while we watched some cooking competition show and whispered, "They're finding their way back. You gave them space to do that." I nodded, didn't trust my voice to hold steady if I spoke, because for the first time in a long, long time, it felt like I had my daughters again. Not just in name, not just in old photo albums or text message threads, but here, in the room, choosing me, not because they needed something, but because they wanted to. And that was everything. By April, the house felt alive again. Not full, but lived in. Hannah's keys on the entryway table, Lily's hoodie tossed on the back of a chair. Little things that used to annoy me when they were teenagers now made me smile when I walked in the door. They weren't moving back, not officially, but they were around, present, calling ahead sometimes just showing up, sometimes just needing to sit in silence and eat leftover lasagna straight from the Tupperware with a fork. I never said no. One Sunday afternoon, Lily found the old photo albums, the ones I hadn't opened in years, the ones with the creaky bindings and the sticky plastic pages that trapped Polaroids like time capsules. She plopped them onto the kitchen table and started flipping through them. "God, look at this hair," she laughed, pointing at a picture of herself at age 6, grinning with 2 missing teeth and pigtails I'd spent 30 minutes struggling to part evenly. "I thought you looked like a princess that day." She smiled without looking up. I remember. Hannah wandered in, took a seat beside her. They started pointing out photos, birthdays, Halloween costumes, first day of school. Every memory rooted in this house, my life with them. "Mom doesn't have any of these," Hannah murmured.
Like she has some pictures, but not like this. I didn't say anything. Didn't have to. The next week, Lily asked if I still had the swing set pieces from the backyard. "The one you built when I was little," she said. "We should turn it into something else. A bench, maybe?" So we did. All 3 of us. Patricia even joined in, holding the instructions upside down like it was a family tradition. We laughed. We bickered about wood stain colors. We accidentally glued one of Lily's socks to a board. It wasn't much, but it was real. One night, after Hannah had gone back to her place and Lily had passed out on the couch with a book on her face, Patricia and I sat on the porch with mugs of tea. She looked at me and said, "You did it, you know. You got them back." I shook my head. "No, I didn't get them back. They came back. On their own. That matters." She smiled at that. "And what about you? Where do you fit in all this now?" It was a good question, one I'd been asking myself a lot lately. Who was I now that I wasn't the sole parent anymore? Who was I now that my daughters were grown and making their own lives, not needing me to hold everything together? I think I'm figuring it out, slowly. I'd spent 20 years being dad first and everything else second. Now, for the first time, I had the freedom to be someone else, and still be their father. A man with hobbies, with a partner, with weekends that didn't revolve around permission slips and school projects. A man who'd finally learned that being available doesn't mean being used, and loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. It wasn't the life I planned, but it was good. It was mine. Summer rolled in soft and slow, like it knew we needed the calm. Warm evenings, dinners on the porch, sawdust always on my jeans from whatever half-finished project I had going in the garage. One Saturday, we hosted a small barbecue. Just us, Patricia, Hannah's new boyfriend, nervous guy named Jordan who brought vegan hot dogs and apologized for existing, and Lily's best friend from high school. It wasn't a big thing, but it felt like one. We laughed, told stories. I caught Lily standing in the kitchen at one point, smiling at nothing. I asked what was so funny. "This feels like home again," she said. "Not perfect, but real." That night, after everyone left and the coals were still glowing in the grill, Hannah found me on the porch. "I'm sorry it took me so long," she said. "For what?" I asked, though I already knew. "For realizing that you were never the backup plan." I didn't respond right away, just looked out at the yard, where the swing set used to be. I was never waiting for an apology. I just wanted the truth. And now I have it. She nodded, then hugged me. Long, tight, the kind of hug that says more than words.
And that's where we are now. I'm not trying to be their everything anymore. I'm just trying to be me. A man who did his best, a man who made peace with what he can't control. They don't live here full time. They don't need to. We're not trying to rebuild the past. We're building something else, something new. And it's enough. More than enough.